Can everybody hear okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Welcome, everybody. We're glad to have such a full house here tonight. I'm Steve Whitworth, and I was asked to be a moderator, and I'm glad to do it. And to start off things, why don't we quote Louis Snyder, "Isn't it nice to live in Poplar, Bluff?" We have a great community here, and I think it is going in, it's growing and going in a great direction. I'm excited about all the developments we have here. I think my town is going to be a better and better place to live, and I'm just excited for what's going on. We're growing in population, in business, in all kinds of health and medical, and it's a great time to be a Poplar Bluffian. And I was asked to moderate this because just like any organism, we have points of contention, and we have people who disagree with different things, and I want to make sure that all these divergent opinions are fairly addressed tonight. That's why I'm here. I was asked to be a fair and impartial guy, and I don't have an opinion at all. So I welcome you and your questions, and we'll get started with questions. We'll get to know the candidates in order of seating here. Feel free to introduce yourself, and we'll go right on down the road.
You want to give some background?
Yeah, background, yeah.
My name is Jack Russian. I'm a chiropractor in Poplar Bluff, Missouri. I was born in Poplar Bluff. My folks moved a little bit around. My dad was in law enforcement. We lived in Colorado for a while. I came back and lived here from 4th grade to 5th grade. Then my dad got a job in Cape Girardeau. We moved up there, and I lived in Jackson from 6th grade to 12th grade. And so I went from being a mule to an Indian and back to a mule again. So, go mules, exactly. We decided to come back and make Poplar Bluff our home. I had went to Seymour University for my prerequisites for chiropractic education, and I went to Life Chiropractic College in Marietta, Georgia. And then married my wife in 1984. We moved to Poplar Bluff in 1988, and lived here ever since with practice on 400 South 11th Street. I've served 18 years in the Missouri State Chiropractic Association, which is a trade association, which really promotes chiropractic and benefits for patients. I was legislative chairman 2 years, insurance chairman 2 years, and legal chairman 2 years. Those are all big hats to wear in the association, which gave me a lot of experience in promulgating rules, legislation, and statutes. And I think I can bring that knowledge to City Council and help with that. I currently serve on the Missouri State Board of Chiropractic Examiners. I'm in my 10th year on the board. I served under Governor Holden, Governor Blunt, and Governor Nixon, and so I went through 3 administrations with that. And again, I think the things I've seen with promulgated rules and regulations is going to help me as far as being on the council. And look forward to serving the people of Poplar Bluff on the city council.
Welcome tonight. Appreciate y'all turning out. My name is David Johnson. I'm a longtime resident of Poplar Bluff. I moved here in the early 50s. Educated through the school, graduated from the Present High School. I actually was the first class that graduated from that high school, so that high school is going to be 50 years old in 2016. So went to Cape Girardeau College, got a BS degree in industrial arts. I taught school for 33 years. I've been affiliated with a lot of boards in this city. I'm presently on 5 city boards. And being on those boards, I feel that I have some knowledge of how the system runs, how the city runs. I've dreamed of being on the city council for a long time. And finally, I was able to make a candidacy and run for this because I'm retired in October of last year, so I have some time to work on it. I want to represent the people. I want to represent them with honesty from my heart. Sometimes I feel that we're not represented correctly, but I want to make sure that the people's voices are heard. They can call me up and tell me, ask me questions. I may not be able to answer it right then, but I will find an answer for them. So I appreciate your time voting. If you didn't vote for me, I want you to do one thing: vote. Be absolutely sure you go vote. That's very, very important nowadays. Time. If you don't vote, you can't go say that what's going on. You don't have a reason because you didn't vote. So please go vote. I've been married to my wife Cindy. I have 2 daughters, Amy and Leslie. Some of you may know them. Leslie's a hotline investigator with the state of Missouri. She calls me and tells me some weird things, man. I can't believe it. And my daughter Amy is working in Cape. They're both graduates at college, so I'm very proud of that. And I'd like to represent you folks. That's my main thing, to represent the people in the city of Poplar Bluff. Thank you for coming out tonight. I appreciate it very much.
I'm Peter Temsley. I want to thank you too for filling this room. It means a lot to us. I started out, I was born over on C Street. If you talk to Betty Abshire, she can tell diaper changing stories on me. When I was 5 years old, we moved from B Street out on Wilcox Road, and I was raised. My daddy was a railroad engineer, raised us, took us to the Methodist church. And I had 2 brothers. My oldest brother was killed in Vietnam. My father served in World War II. And I graduated from here in '75. And I believe I got started in politics my senior year. I gave a speech. I turned 18. I was a late bloomer. I turned 18 in my senior year, and I got fired up and I gave a speech about the post office. And I don't know if you guys remember, but we had this limestone building, limestone building down in the Broadway, down where the parking lot is now. And they got this wild idea that people were not shopping downtown because there was no parking. And the powers that be were downtown at the time, and it was just about what we're experiencing today in Poplar Bluff. And they got this, we went down to that meeting, and I'll never forget, Doc Stokely was postmaster for 30 years, and he stood up and he said that he would, if they put it to a public vote, that he would pay for the election, and if it failed, he would give the Edgewood home $5,000. This was 1974, $5,000 was a lot of money. And they turned him down. They would not do it. And the only thing you can find of the post office today is sitting down on Main Street in front of the museum, the 4 columns. If you guys don't know that, that's where those columns came from. Beautiful limestone structure. And I'll be honest with you, I got disheartened because we went down there to make a difference, and they did not listen to us at all. But anyway, I graduated in '75. I spent a couple of years in Poplar Bluff, and I'll be honest with you, I had problems as a child. And when I was 22, I decided I better get some additional. I joined the Air Force. And became automatic pilot was my career field. I repaired airplanes, and I loved it. I blossomed. I learned electronics and gained rank. I made E5 in 4 years, spent 5.5 years. Had to extend a year and a half, spent 3 years in the Philippines. And it was an experience. I got to travel all over the eastern part of the world. I say every American, I go overseas. So make you really appreciate what you have. But I've always been raised in the Methodist Church. I've raised to try and do honorable things. And I've always had a volunteering heart, a giving heart. Today, I just came from, I cook Wednesday night dinner. I always say, if you want to see a miracle God, come down and watch me cook at the Methodist Church. It's my 6th year. It's a total God thing I never cooked before in my life. But some of them things, if God asks you to do something, just take a step out. And I believe that's why I'm sitting here. My wife and I are the Red Cross, American Red Cross DAT captains, this disaster action team captains. I got the call Easter Sunday in 2011 when we had the flood, 5 o'clock, to go open the Coliseum. I managed the night shift of the Coliseum. We ran almost 320 people. A lot of people don't realize that's bigger than the shelter that was in Joplin. It was one of the biggest shelters. We had the Chinese news. You can Google YouTube and watch a commercial on Chinese CNN that the only words you can understand is Boy Scout and Red Cross. It's a total. Chinese news were up in St. Louis and they got wind of us and they wanted to come down and see how we handled the disaster. And I believe some of you read that I went to Hurricane Sandy. I'd always said I wasn't going to deploy. I was here to serve Butler County. I was always employed and everything and did not have time. Anytime you go deploy, you got signed for 3 weeks. I said I'd never do that, but I'm here for Butler County. Due to me selling my business and becoming unemployed and stuff, I was sitting Friday and Hurricane Sandy had hit. And I was sitting there thinking to myself, I could deploy now if I wanted to. About 30 minutes later, my wife walked in the door and said, you know, I was thinking if you wanted to deploy, you could. And I deployed to Hurricane Sandy. They sent me out with 18 people. My first deployment, managed a shelter. And I can tell you there was a series of events there where I had to stand up to a county sheriff. He was going to come and pull our people out in the middle of a storm. I stood up to him and stopped it. And I'll say that I believe that that's the reason I'm sitting here today, is that I see some things happening that I don't feel are right. I see this young lady. I'm sorry. I get that from my dad. I get emotional. But she stepped up and started asking questions. And they started smacking her. And then putting her down. And I believe she was asking honest, from her heart, questions. Why things were done this way. And I believe more than anything, she's just trying to educate herself. She's young, she didn't know what she's doing. And I feel kind of the same way. And I feel like they kind of beat up on me more than anyway. And I really feel like they're afraid of the questions. Because I will. I do know how. I got the gift of gab and I'll use it. And I'll ask questions. I spent 20 years in business doing copy machines. And that might sound silly, but I can tell you, I know 90% of the business owners in Southeast Missouri. When you deal with the copy machine, when you deal with their business, you get involved in, we did printers, we did fax machines, you get involved with their business. I know how businesses run, I know how business operates. And I believe I can bring that to the table with the council. The other thing I believe I bring to the table is my Red Cross. We just got, I'm running too long, sorry. We just got Jeff Sean. He's doing an excellent job, emergency management. I believe it would be resourceful to have somebody that is emergency preparedness. We need to be prepared. We're getting better when we need to. And the last thing, I chime in with David. We're supposed to be civil servants. We're supposed to do your will. We're supposed to listen to you. And I believe there's been a number of times when there's been an agenda and the public wanted to do something else and they sidestepped. I believe we just witnessed the sale of our cable system, and they did not listen to the public. We did not know. But anyway, I've gone over time. I apologize for that. But I'm here for you, and I want to listen to you, and I want to ask honest, open questions. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. Now that we've gotten to know them, let's take this opportunity. We have the right in this country to do this. Let's get in touch with our Creator and let's bow our heads and pray. Father, we thank you for giving us this opportunity to get together. We look to you for guidance to make good decisions, to guide our city, our community in a positive direction, and we ask you to bring us together in a civil way to do what's right for this community. In your name we pray. Amen. Okay, thank you guys. Let's get started with, we have a group of questions here. There's 3 together, and we're going to just kind of synopsize, but we're going to read them together and let each candidate answer these kind of grouping of questions. I think I'm getting turned up my volume. What goals do you wish to accomplish if you're elected to council? What ideas do you have to reduce spending in the city employee health insurance costs while maintaining good coverage? We want to take care of our city employees, and what is your long-range plan for the city? I think we'll just go, I'm a simple-minded guy, so we'll just go simply 1, 2, 3 down the row, and so we'll bring Jack in first.
Peter, you don't have any more time. In order, your first question was which one?
It was, what goals do you wish to accomplish?
Okay. One of the things that helps drive a community is to have commerce. And the more commerce you have, the more employment you have. The more commerce you have, the more dollars you have that flow through your community. And the more dollars that stay within your community, which makes more people prosperous. So one of the things, first of all, the Chamber of Commerce has been good in the past, and City Council and other entities have been good in the past to bring businesses into Poplar Bluff. Especially what we would like to have is manufacturing. And if we could just put 3 manufacturing plants out in the industrial park, that's what we'd like to do. But that's a hard thing to achieve. It's something that we should always try to continue to work on. But what else can we do while that's taking place? One of the things we can do is try to bring more influx of dollars spent into Butler County and Poplar Bluff. And one of the ways that can be done is through being a sports hub for sports in traveling teams in southeast Missouri, northern Arkansas, and southern Illinois. For example, Batesville, Arkansas has a population of 10,000 people. They're going to have a ball tournament coming up with 100 teams, and it's a 2-day tournament. And that is a massive influx of economy to that town. Now, to back it up a bit, if you had a 1-day tournament with 50 teams, and most teams are going to have a player and parents, maybe a sibling, maybe a grandma and grandpa, an aunt and uncle. But the bottom line is the people who come to that event for a 1-day tournament, if they eat meals in Poplar Bluff, which is a combination of fast food and sit-down restaurants, that's $21,000 for lunch. If you have a 2-day tournament, you're going to add hotel stays and more than one meal, and then you're also going to add retail shopping, fuel purchases, and things like that. Now, of course, the first echelon of benefit from that is going to be your restaurants and your hotels and your retail sales. But all that money is going to be in the community, and it's going to get churned over and over through various activities of the different entities that require the money, and it's going to bring more prosperity to the city, and it's going to have more sales tax and a whole lot of other things. So one of the things we want to do is we have some very fine baseball facilities out at McLean Park. We have some soccer fields that are out near where Hoods is at that can be worked with and made better. We have the Coliseum. In the wintertime, you could fold up all the internal bleachers. You could have soccer from 8 in the morning to 8 at night on a Saturday. You would have all the spectators and family in the upper bowl. We would be using that facility, what it was made for, which is for the community, and we'd be bringing in dollars into Poplar Bluff. So that's one thing that I'd like to do as far as, having a goal for the community. The other thing is, which we basically have a lot of this strictly crossover between the candidates here, we feel the same way. We need to have a long-term range plan for paving roads and streets in Poplar Bluff that aren't paved. We have a tremendous amount of gravel roads in our community. And when you pave a road, you increase property values. When you pave a road, you may instill greater pride in the property owner, which may entice them to make the property better. You entice investors to come in and remodel existing homes and build new homes. So when you start doing those kind of improvements, there's a lot of benefit that benefits, people in Poplar Bluff. And then as far as the other goal that I have is I really want City Council to be a pleasant place where people can come when they have to because something is affecting them, whether it's a street change or commercial zoning or whatever it is. I want them to be able to come and feel that they're welcome. I want them to be able to come and not be pressured or intimidated by the fact that most people don't speak in public very much. I've been to many council meetings. I went for council meetings for a road issue that I had years ago. I went to council meetings because my neighborhood wanted me to be the spokesperson when they were going to put a sports complex in South 67. And I've been there for other events just to witness the activity. I've watched it on cable. And I just want to see people that come up to the microphone just be welcome and be able to talk. In that same spirit, when I'm elected, I'm going to provide a cell phone at my cost that will be available for me all the time for city council business and for the citizens of Poplar Bluff. Now, folks, that's not saying I'm gonna answer it every time it rains, because I've gotta sleep and I've gotta work. But it's gonna have a large voicemail box in there, extra capacity, and when people call in, I'm gonna be able to deal with concerns, and I'll be able to help them bring forth ideas or concerns they have at the council meeting so that they can be heard, because efficiency and transparency is something we need to have. And basically, that's my top 3 things.
I would like to bring the city back to the people. I think we forget about sometimes who actually lives here, who pays the taxes, who does that. And I'd like to see all the citizens involved in the city of Poplar Bluff. My goal is to work the whole city, not just part of it. We see, you can drive through the south side, the east side, part of the central town, and it seems like sometimes they're left out. Everything's going north. Well, that has good ideas, and those things need to be here, and people need to work for the jobs. But we forget about this part of the town sometimes, I think. And I'd really like to see those work. I've been walking, knocking on doors, haven't got to all of them, but some of the places where you gotta walk, the sidewalks and things is terrible. You walk on a lot of gravel streets. I think, and don't quote me on this, but I think there's about 21 miles of streets that Poplar Bluff's aren't paved. Excuse me. I'm not 100% sure, but that number was a factor a few years ago. We live in the 21st century. We need paved streets. We need sidewalks. We need infrastructure in all the town the same amount. So there's 5 wards, and I'd like to see equal amount of money spent in each ward. If Ward 1 needs streets, Ward 2 needs streets, let's set up a plan so we pave 1 street in Ward 1, 1 street in Ward 2, 3, 4, and 5 during that year. And within 10 years, we'll have all the streets paved. You go to Doniphan, you go to Piedmont, a lot of these smaller towns, and they've got all paved streets. They don't own a $400,000 road grader to grade roads. They got a couple of road graders to help grade snow, but we don't need to be grading roads in the 21st century. We need to be driving on paved streets, walking on good sidewalks, things of that sort. You want me to answer about insurance?
Yes.
So was that one of the questions? All right, I've talked to a lot of city workers, and they feel they're left out on the insurance deal. They would like to have a representative from the street department, the water department, fire department, police department, etc. Be on the board and give their ideas about insurance. Say that I had to pay X amount, which people don't realize, and things of this sort. So that they'll have the idea of what they really need. And I feel that the insurance should be bid out, given opportunity to other local people in town, not just one certain company or so, but it needs to be represented by all the insurance companies in town. If they can't bid on it, fine, but they need to have the chance to do that. What was the third question? I forgot, I'm sorry.
It was, what are your long-range plans? If you have a
Okay,
question.
my long-range plans is to make the city run efficiently, make the workers feel that they're part of the city, that they're represented by the city, make sure the citizens are represented by the city, and see improvements in every ward in town, one way or the other. If the ward says, well, we need a fire station on this side of town, let's see what we can do. If they say we need more police protection on this side of town, we don't see them, let's find out the reason why and get that. It may be simply because they never were told to go there. You know what I'm saying? But let's make sure everybody is represented in this town equally. That's my #1 goal. And another goal is I would like to see term limits on city council members. That includes myself, because after a while you get stale and just go up there and sit. And I don't want to do that. I want to give someone else a chance. So 3 terms, that might be enough for anybody. That would be 9 years, and I think that's enough. So those are some of the ideas that I'd like to do in Poplar Bluff. And I want to make sure every person in this room, in this town, feels he can come to me, Jack Peter, and say, boy, you messed up on that one. Ask me why I did it, so that we can tell you why we did it. So I want everyone to be represented correctly. And again, I appreciate you all tonight. Thank you very much.
Steve, would you repeat the question?
Why, certainly. What goals do you wish to accomplish if you are elected to council? And, let me see, what ideas do you have to reduce spending in the city employee health insurance costs while maintaining good coverage and long-range goals for the city?
I can remember 10 years ago or longer when we started the 67 project. Meeting down at the Coliseum, the chamber had a meeting, and the head of MoDOT talked about that there is not a community in Missouri that has more highways intersecting. They talked about making Highway 67 4-lane, and we would be the main thoroughfare from Chicago to Dallas. And I didn't really realize that. I had a guy I believe it was in campaign about a month ago, told me that the MoDOT guy said, you're not looking at the big picture. If you lay down the map and go from Phoenix, Arizona to Atlanta, Georgia, that Poplar Bluff intersects right there. And we are in a natural hot spot. I've been saying all the time, Poplar Bluff is booming, we're growing. Is it geographic location or is it management? I've heard talk that says that if we change the administration of Poplar Bluff right now, that it's going to halt everything that's going on in Poplar Bluff. And I can say nothing further from the truth. I believe that Poplar Bluff is not going to do anything but grow. But my long-term, or my goals for Poplar Bluff is to get to 67 and continue the growth that we're doing and do things to bring businesses in. But in the same point, if you all go home and if you haven't, Google the 8-point project and read, I believe their website is k2.com. And they talk about, these boys from St. Louis came down here and they talked about 8 point stands for there's 8 communities that come here to shop. And they figured out that is a hot spot. And this is one of the largest minarets we've ever built. And people are starting to notice Poplar Bluff. But my thing is, do you have to give away the farm every time somebody comes in and put it on the backs of the citizens? Every time, we started to build a hospital on PP Highway, it's gonna spend 100% tax. And they move over here to where they're at and they pay no tax. There's gotta be a happy medium here that will attract these businesses and not put so much weight on them. And we can take this money and continue to improve the city. But as David spoke, I'm from Ward 5, and I have a big concern that, with the gravel streets and with just Ward 5, everything we're putting so much attention on Oak Grove Road and out north and all this, and that's great. But if we take our eye off Ward 5, I believe we'll deteriorate. We'll see our cities. But with Poplar Bluff growing the way it is, we need a workforce. And all these, new developments and all these new homes and all that are great. But a lot of the common working people cannot afford to go out and build a new home or something. They need rental houses, they need places for a workforce to live. And I believe Ward 5 could be that place. There's a lot of places, like David says, if we just pave the street and improve the infrastructure some, that these people would be wonderful places to live. I believe a lot of people have a misconception of Ward 5. Like I say, I go to the Methodist Church. A lot of times when I leave the Methodist Church, I drive the other way too. I live out on North Main. I'll drive back through the neighborhood back there. It's not dangerous. I believe our crime, our police force and everything has done a good job of cleaning that up back there. And it can be a nice place. We just, what's the recycling barracks? Just moved back there, built a wonderful building. And there's opportunity for growth back there, and then be a wonderful place for the working class people to live. And that's kind of my vision for Ward 5. But these factories will tell you, and the people will tell you, I'm not sure what, you know, I know Menards is always already hiring people, but if we continue to grow the way we're going, we gotta have a workforce to support it. But, along the insurance, I don't know, David's got the super idea, and that's, like I say, my whole thing is being a civil servant and listening to the people. And I can't think of a better idea than let the employees represent themselves and let them, you know, I guess the insurance people kind of sell it to them. But I don't believe that we ought to control it as much as the powers that we are, and we need to open it up for bids. But long range, I just see Poplar Bluff growing, just being a hot spot, like Jack talked about, a sports center and stuff like that. And I don't think there's a lot that Poplar Bluff can't do. I get a little frustrated sometimes every time we come up with an idea of something we want to do. We look to another community. What did they do? What did they do? I'll go back to the MoDOT thing. There is not a community in Missouri that has the opportunities we have. And I think sometimes we need to think outside the box. Just because somebody else hasn't done it, there's got to be a first time for, you know, and we can lead the stuff. I've always, in business, I never wanted to follow my competition. If you follow them, they're leading the dance. I'd rather lead the dance. I think Poplar Bluff can be unique. I think we got opportunities that nobody else has. So along that line, we can't every time somebody steps up and says, let's do this, and we say, well, it's never been done before. What Jack said, we need to be open, listen, and be civil servants.
I want to get the insurance issue. To discuss the insurance issue a bit, you know, I was a bit puzzled. You know, I think you have to have more than one broker that goes out and tries to get your coverages. When I was in administration with the Missouri State Chiropractic Association, I did a lot of different things. I interviewed and helped hire executive directors for that organization. And anytime we had to have a bid for something, you know, we wanted to get the best price we could get. We'd go to Kansas City, we'd go to St. Louis, we'd go out of state. And that's the job, you know, when you're managing something, that's what you're to do. And so the more bids you get from the different capable brokers and individuals, the better it's going to be. To tie with one thing that Peter said, you know, the hospital situation is a really good example. You know, we don't need to give away the farm. Just like he said, when they moved the hospital from the location we were going to put it to the location they put it in, ladies and gentlemen, that cost the school $1.7 million a year. And that's not me saying that. That's directly from the agency, directly from the collector or the assessor's office. And you know, now we're faced with a tax bill that they're going to be voted on the 8th to overhaul the school system, and it does need to be overhauled. But boy, it'd be nice if $1.7 million was being put toward that and not falling totally on the backs of the citizens and the property owners of Poplar Bluff. So that's the kind of thing we need to watch out for. You know, I'm not going to beat up CVS Pharmacy, but they get a tax. We may give tax abatements to certain companies to come here, and then you have a pharmacy down the road that's been here for 30 years, and they built themselves up from scratch and in the community, and they don't get a tax abatement for upgrading their property, upgrading their facility. So, you know, those are the kind of things you really got to take consideration of when we start talking about, you know, managing city affairs.
Okay, next question, and let's keep in mind, candidates, now we got the long three-pronged question out of the way. Brevity is the soul of wit and wisdom, so listen, we want to tackle a lot of questions, let's keep that in mind. For many years, flooding has been a problem in Poplar Bluff's low-lying areas. When residents approach the city council trying to get some relief, the answer is always the cause of the problem is on private property, and we can't get on private property to clean out the ditch, etc. What would you suggest to help solve this issue?
You know, one of the things is, for example, I really think in a situation like that, you need to have a community meeting. You need to have the residents of these floodplains come together, and then they need to be delivered information that's viable, that's applicable to the situation, and then as a group they make decisions what they're going to do. You know, some of these questions or some of these problems the community has are very vast. And we really don't have privy to a lot of the information involved with cost of doing these things, where we actually can relieve water accumulation in some of these places that cause flooding and cause problem hardships to residents. But if we bring people together and we talk about, you know, what can be done, I think that that's the first part. To give an example of that, you know, one of the things that we were all approached with, and I know the candidates that aren't here tonight were also approached with, it was the concern about power and electric. Is that a question that's coming up later?
Yes, it is.
All right, then I won't discuss that. I'll discuss it at that time. But I'm just saying that we need to have communication with the community, and if you bring the owners in and the property owners in and discuss it and try to derive a plan with their input, I think that's the best way to handle it.
All right, flooding's always been a big problem in Poplar, especially on the south side and east side. Where I live, if we get flooding, we're in trouble. But I think as a councilman, the public or the persons need to contact us, and we should have the right to go look at their problem and discuss it with them, with the street department, the floodplain manager as a whole, and tell them we can't fix that because it's not our responsibility, or we can fix it and help you and give you some relief. That's what I'd like to do, is be able to communicate with the people. Say, yes, you do have a flood problem. If you would get that tree out of that ditch, it'd probably help it quite a bit. And we can come help you. You know what I'm saying? We forget sometimes that you, the people, own the city. You pay the taxes. We forget that sometimes. And we need to be able to help. We need to listen to the people and say, yes, we can help you. Now there's flood plans, deals down at the city that you can go look at. And when we tell prospective buyers that, or builders, you got to run this flood plan, they look at us like, oh, I don't want to spend all that money on it. But we are working on flood plans, trying to get those. One of the committees I work on is for flood plans, and we're trying to work on that. But I think we need to give the citizens more help on that. When they have a flood plan and concern, I believe we need to visit with them and find out what we can do to help. Thank you.
I owned a house over on 11th Street that is an investment piece of property, and it had a big, like, almost 24-inch pipe dumped into the yard, and then the ditch went along the property line. And I cleaned out my ditch and all this, but it went a long ways down, and it was not cleaned out further down. And we called the city and got the line. We can't go on private property. And I was very frustrated. I'll be honest with you, I was renting a place for a time to the daughter that she wanted to block off the pipe. And I told her, you can't do that. But anyway, I don't understand why with easements and stuff like that we can't handle, especially when it involves major flood problems, that we shouldn't maintain it just like we do the streets. I know we've had to buy out some property in flood zones because there was no solution for it. I think a lot of times that if we manage this water flow, and there again, being involved with the Red Cross, I've seen the effects of the flooding and stuff and work with the people. But, and we understand, we have a very clear picture. We've flooded twice, and we have a very good picture of how the water flows. And I feel that, you know, we have easements to work on all kinds of utilities. I don't understand why with proper easements that we can't maintain these ditches and work on some of this flood problem.
And Peter, I think we'll leave the microphone with you because Jack's already, this next question is, and Jackie can give more thought to this because you come to raise this. The city council has given the tax abatements to new businesses coming into Poplar. While many areas of our town have many needs and citizens are asked to vote to increase school tax, what is your opinion of tax abatement? So you can go ahead and address that.
I believe I've addressed that already, my feelings of why give away the farm.
Okay.
I believe that a lot of times we need to give incentives for businesses coming here, but there again, if you go read this 8-point assessment, the way they talk about that area up there, it's a hot spot for businesses. And we need to collect some tax off, but we need to help them shoulder some of this. I guess that's, I guess the other concern I have along that line is what kind of jobs they're bringing. I know Menards is, and I don't want to knock Menards, I'm thrilled it's coming here, but is it going to give that many jobs and the quality that Briggs and Stratton and Gates Rubber and all of them? Is it actually going to be jobs that you can raise a family with? Thinks how many part-time jobs are there going to be? And I think we need to do something to bring our manufacturing. There again, in this talk about 67 that I referred to, they talk about with our medical centers and our transportation and all this, that we're going to be in our industrial park, we're going to be a hot spot for manufacturing the same. And I believe that we can bring that here. We always get a lot more taxes off of it. You get full-time employees and you bring a working force in like that, it helps your community grow.
I know it's hard to get new businesses to come to town without tax abatements. That's the first thing they always want to do is, what kind of tax you going to give me, what you're going to give me, your benefits and stuff like that. But I feel that everybody ought to pay for their equal amount. As citizens, we pay the equal amount every time we go to the store. Sales tax, we always pay the same sales tax. We have to pay the same city taxes, property taxes, personal property taxes. So why are businesses better than the public? Everyone should have to pay the equal taxes. That's my feeling about that.
We can go to the next question, because I
Okay.
I'll cover that.
And this questioner wants, it phrases it this way: go on the record and tell us what was your opinion with the sale of city cable of the facts available to you.
What was the last part?
With the facts available.
The facts available to you. What is your opinion of the sale of city cable with the facts available to you?
Since the sale of the city cable, I've spoken in a couple of public venues, and I've campaigned door to door, and I've met people on the street, I've met people in areas of business, and we will talk about city business. And I have not brought that up. Someone may bring it up to me, and my response has been basically the response that I had the night it was voted on in my mind. And that is, I wouldn't have voted for the measure because I didn't have a document in front of me. That's just it. That's in all of my training and all of my experience with the Missouri State Chiropractic Association, with the Missouri Board of Chiropractic Examiners, with the International Chiropractic Association, with the Federation of Chiropractic Licensing Boards, with the National Chiropractic Association. There's no way I would have signed, no way I would have voted for a document that I didn't have before me that had the details. So I wouldn't have voted for it based on that. I'm not saying it's a bad move. I'm not saying it shouldn't be done. It very well may should have been done. But the information involved with the sale of the cable system is too vast. I don't have it before me. I can't comment on it in that respect because I don't know anything about it. There is no information before me enough to make me want to vote to sell it or not sell it. All I can tell you is I wouldn't have voted for it if I didn't have the document in front of me. But that's my personal opinion and my preference.
All right, I feel the same way that Jack does. I feel it was brought to the public too quick. It was advertised in Sunday's paper, and Monday night it was sold. And there wasn't enough information to any of the public to tell what was going on, actually. And so I really can't comment on it now until I dig in deeper and find more information on it. But my main concern was what's going to happen to the city employees that were employed by the city cable company. and we can't even find that out now. So, I'm sorry that I can't come on comment on it because I don't have enough information.
I guess I ditto. I was appalled, I'll be honest with you. I actually went to the podium and questioned what was in attachment A. And they got an answer. I was really ridiculed for being that. And I'll be honest with you, I thought I was almost getting out of line. Watching it on YouTube, and in hindsight, I wish I'd gotten a lot stronger. To sell a $17.5 million asset and not see a contract, it's beyond me. I've bought a lot of real estate. When you buy a house, you sign a contract for sale. It doesn't have all the verbiage and all the details of your loan document, but it certainly spells out what you're buying. It's got a legal description. I think part of the council didn't even know if the building went or not. There were so many unanswered questions. And as they said, we had 30 hours that the public actually, it was announced. I'm not going to comment about how it was announced or how many people saw it, but the public, I talked to so many people, like I said, in the campaign, that had no clue that anything was even going on. And people are just astounded when you tell them, yeah, we stole the cable company. What? And just the whole process, like they've commented, everybody's commented. We don't know if it's a good deal, time will tell. But I don't believe enough thought was put into it. And somebody has to raise the question, why 3 weeks before an election? Why, why was it not workshopped properly as our ordinances call for? Why was it not presented as a full ordinance as our ordinances call for? The ordinance states very plainly, you have to read an ordinance, is it 2 or 3 times? Two. Or you can call an ordinance by name. If you call it by name, the documents are supposed to be made public before the meeting, for the council. The documents were not public. It was basically they broke an ordinance, and they really shunned you for even questioning it. And I really had an issue with it. And to just sell a $17.5 million asset without a contract, I joined Jack. There's no way I would have accepted it.
And to share one more thing, just for the audience here and for the citizens, I had a lot of people come up to me and talk to me about it after the sale. And, they posed concerns that I think were valid concerns by the public because, the public made a bond issue about to purchase the cable or system in 2001 or 2002. But the situation was, some questions were the municipal utility buildings where it's currently at, was that purchased by the municipal utilities? Or was it purchased through the bond issue? And then the other questions were asked is, well, what's the fair value of that building because it's such an ideal commercial site? And there were questions like that were asked to me, and I thought, that's pretty interesting that those people had those concerns. And of course, none of that, when they said there was a detailed description given about it, basically the discussion was given by the person that set up the sale. He mainly covered the evaluation based on users. There was no discussion about what the actual assets were. There was no detailed discussion what the actual assets were. And that left a lot of people upset.
Do citizen input from 10 minutes to 3 minutes in the late fall of 2013, which is pertinent to us having time limits now.
I think it's a non-issue. It's never been an issue. And I want to hear from you. I can't remember a time when anybody got up to the podium, we really needed to shut them up. It's not an issue. And there again, I think it's them trying to stifle you. I disagree.
Okay, I feel the same way. Like I said, I think the citizens need to be able to be spoken, speak, and listened to. And if I'm on the council, I'll guarantee you'll have that right.
Well, in reality, when we look back, when that motion or that was being made, or for that ordinance to be made, or whatever for to do that, we look back at the history of several council meetings. And several council meetings, there wasn't even public time taken. And sometimes when it was taken, it was well below the margin that they wanted to request. On the night that they were trying to vote that in, there was a group in there, I think they were called Breathies or whatever, they were talking, their concern was trying to make, most of Poplar and all of it smokeless. And there was some really good discussion made by these people. And if that ordinance had been in an application, one of the best speakers that spoke, a physician, he wouldn't have been heard. So I just think that, when you're dealing with things of substance, sometimes you absolutely have to take the time to get the details out and discuss them.
Okay, thank you. And the second to last question. We through the, okay, yeah. Will you make sure that all bids are considered properly to all candidates?
All what?
Are all bids considered properly?
I am, there again, as an issue of mine with the bidding process of Poplar Bluff. I don't believe it's open bidding, and it's not. We've seen bids that's been accepted where we've thrown away tremendous amounts of money. And to me, it raises red flags. Is you ask why, and I go back to I think some questions need to be asked.
I feel the same way, and I think the public ought to be aware of all the bids, what they are, the cost of them, and why they were paid, or why were they accepted for. I believe everybody needs to know that.
Are you still going to ask a question about utilities?
Let me see. Utilities are not in the.
Okay, so therefore, I want to, that would have been in one of my original statements, so I want to make a comment about that. When we first began to run for our office, there was a tremendous amount of the public that came to us really concerned about our electric rates. And we listened to them, and that originally was a large part of our platform. And it's still a concern. We still want to have the lowest rates available to our citizens. But in this process, we've learned an awful lot. And we've learned in some respects that we're competitive for kilowatt hours. Jackson's at 10 cents a kilowatt hour. Ameren is in the bigger cities is 11. 11 in the summer, and I think 8 in the winter. We're at 0.086. The only people that really mop us up on kilowatt hours is Sykeston. And ladies and gentlemen, Sykeston has their own power plant. That's why they can have their kilowatt hours they sell to their people cheaper than the wholesale amount that Jackson pays, which is 7.5 cents. So the 2012 kilowatt hours for Sykeston was 0.53. So the thing that I thought that was exciting, and this really deserves the credit to the people that have pooled the energy which we buy from, is the energy that we buy from have went out of their way to acquire hydropower. Now why is that important? Hydropower is a subsidized form of power, which means it's cheaper. And that blend of hydro, coal, and other sources of power make it where our rates can be lower. And see, I think that the people out there that are concerned about the rate of the kilowatt hours we pay need to know and appreciate that fact, that that's a part of our power comes from that, and that was smart on the power hub that purchased it, okay? And then back to the question that you currently asked was what?
We make sure that all bids are considered properly.
Yes. Really, if you're going to give a bid and you're going to give specs for something you want, I don't care what it is, you give the specs for it, and the bid comes back that meets the specs you gave, then you should take the lowest bid. If it meets the specs that you put out there for the bid, and the bid comes back and it's the lowest bid, you should take it. And if there's extenuating circumstances to that, then make it available for the public to know, and also make it available for the people who put the bids out to know, so that everything's up and on top of everything. And I think that that's what you need to do. The other thing is, we got professionals in this community. We have engineer firms, we have surveyor firms, we have engineer firms that are capable of providing work for the city. We need to be sure that people in the community have equal access to making bids and getting the ability to participate in what goes on in the city.
About the utilities and electric rates, I think that the citizens should know why it goes up. Simply as saying, they're raising the rates that we buy it from. A certain percentage or a certain amount. So instead of just saying the city needs to increase the utility rates or electric rates and vote on it, let the public be informed the reason why. And I think they'll understand a lot better. Instead of just going and saying we're raising the rates. Just, insurance goes up, trucks go up, fuel costs go up, power plant costs go up. So let the people know that. The reason why, let the public be informed why it's going up. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Before we get to the last question, I want to point out that the candidates, Ron Black is of the Baptist ministry. He couldn't be here tonight. It is Wednesday night. And Susan McVeigh had a bad back. Maybe she needs to see you there, Jack. And Susan couldn't be here. The at-large candidates, how many at-large spots do we have available? 2. So we have 4 candidates here at large. So you have to choose between 2 of the 4 candidates. Choose 2 of the 4 candidates for this election, and we have 2 candidates for Ward 5. That's what we're voting on at this upcoming election. So now, with that aside, there's the last question of the evening. What can City Council do to hold a large developer accountable to the plans they propose to get approved by the city? Okay, Peter, you have a mic. You can go first.
Large developers, they make promises to the city and they do not follow through.
Yeah, what can City Council do to hold a large developer accountable to the plans they propose to get approved by the city? I remember back years ago when Roper came here, we developed something for Roper, and they pulled out. I think it was,
What was it?
it was what can City Council
No, I
do?
said, what was your comment?
Yeah, it was Roper back when I was in high school. Yeah, Roper. I think it was Roper Ranges. Yeah, they skedadded before they built, we got something ready.
We invested and then they backed out.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That's a hard one. Probably my first instinct would be some bonding. That they have some kind of bond issue that would back up what, if we invest money, there should be a bond that we can collect on to collect that. My first instinct, normally these large developments, they have tax incentives to them. Tell them that if they do not follow through with what they promised, then the tax incentive becomes null and void and they owe the tax. There'll be some kind of penalty you can lay on them. But I really think the bonding issue would be number one.
I'll have to agree with Peter, right? He answered the question for me. If they have tax incentives to come into town and they get a tax break and they leave before they're supposed to, I think that you have to pay the taxes back, and the city has to collect the bond on that issue.
I agree with what Peter said about the bonding. It gives you a safety net. I also think that, depending on the legality and certain statutes, I know that there's construction programs that are done where like the city hires somebody or an entity hires somebody. If they don't meet a deadline, they pay $500 a day or $1,000 a day. I think if an entity enters an agreement with the city, and the city is expending resources, time, energy, and revenue to help this project go, and they pull out, I think that there should be some type of penalty to help recoup the time and energy that's been spent on it, that's going to be wasted by their absence of not following through.
Well, thank you, candidates. Good answers. I think it's been a great evening. Remember, we're in a city-manager form of government. The city council is the body that gives instructions of city government what to do. And so the city councilman gets paid $1 a year to take on all these gripes and griefs, and I think they're crazy for wanting to take that on. But I appreciate people in this community for taking that job. Yeah, you know, and I as a businessman, I shine up a silver dollar every year, and the city council is paid that silver dollar every year, and for that they take on all this grief. And again, I think they're crazy, but thank you for wanting to do that job, and I appreciate all the jobs that all the work that the other previous councils have done, and thank you for growing Poplar Bluff. Thanks for coming.